What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hoon here, your host, back with another episode down in Midtown Oklahoma City today. If you're watching the video, this is a pretty sick setup. We're here. We got a little studio action going on. It's nice to show up to a podcast and not really have to set anything up other than bring a camera. So, Sandeep, I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
But today's podcast, we're going to talk a little bit about kind of your family heritage, history, and the projects that you're doing right now, which is really cool, and how to give back to that. But first of all, thanks for your time, and let's dive in. I guess who are you and what do you do?
Yep. So my name is Sandeep, and I am a geophysicist by trade.
Okay.
So I work at Devon Energy. Found music in 2018. First of all, I came to the United States in 2006.
Yeah.
Right after high school. Did my undergrad in Jersey, so I was an East Coast person. Came here in 2000, so finished my undergrad, did my grad school, and came here 2012 or 13 for a PhD at Oklahoma State. Took a month to be like, no, I'm not doing this. it was that quick. It's like, I'm not doing this PhD. So finished my second master's at Oklahoma State, and then I got a job at Devon Energy.
Yeah.
Stayed there for a few years. I'm still there. And then 2018, my wife introduced me to hip hop. I was into music, but I was more Tool, Pink Floyd, Porcupine Tree, classic rock, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And if I had to go more towards hip hop, the closest that got was Gorillaz. That's the closest.
Mm-hmm.
But she took me to the Roots concert in 2018, and I was not sure what I was seeing because I was blown away by, because I always thought hip hop was sort of very bombastic, which I felt like it still is, but there's that confidence, right? Like, I am the best.
Mm-hmm.
So I never felt connected to that. I still loved some of the artists that did that. But it was something was missing for me, and that's where underground hip hop gave me that. Was like, okay, real things they're talking about. So I remember I got one of those. There was a DJ who was playing with a light block. Just when you have the spotlight on an artist, everybody else takes a break, the DJ takes over, and he was like going crazy on that with different samples and different drum kits and I was like, okay, so you can still make music without playing instruments. I want to do that.
Yeah. The tech side of you is like, I can do this.
Yeah, I can do this. So I remember I ordered one of the keyboards, like little MIDI keyboards, during the break of the show, like from Amazon. It's like, sweetie, I'm going to buy this right now, and I'm going to play with
the square pads on it, right? Yeah.
So I made my first beat. I called. We used to actually live right opposite where we are right now at the Midtown Apartments, and I made my first beat. And I called her. I was really proud. It's like, oh my God, look at this sound. Just listen to this. She laughed like straight up. Like, and then she looked at me. He's like, oh, I felt bad. He feels bad. So
it's like, oh, you're being serious.
He's like, okay, I like the ticking sound. And I was like, that's a metronome that I'm using to keep time. That's not even part of the beat. And so that's how it started.
Yeah.
But what came from it was like, I just kept going. I knew I was always good at listening to music, and like I was really good at my ear training was getting pretty decent. Like I could tell when a note was out of key. So I kept kind of leaning into that sort of whatever like strength that I have.
Yeah.
And then I kept producing, kind of had that feeling that I don't know what musician is anymore. So I kind of had like a doubt. It's like, okay, I guess I'm just like sampling different vinyls, using samples. And then I realized that what I enjoy and what I was good at was composing original stuff from things that I was given.
Yeah.
So I kind of got into that a lot more. I started reaching out to people on Instagram, like, hey, I'm new, I want to work with artists, I'm a producer. Started producing for a local artist named Rob Kumpian, so I did a lot, like an album with him. And then sort of kind of went down a little bit. Like I didn't have much to do after that. We were still working on a few things together, but I was trying to look for a more diverse group of people. Like, I wanted to. So I met Thomas Hu through online. Thomas Hu is a really great artist in town. And the first day I go, I sent him a beat pack. He not hate it. He's like, just not liking it.
Yeah.
He's like, what else you got? So I sent him another one. another one, nothing for a month. I kept going. For me, I have no ego when it comes to music because everybody's taste is different, so I'm not going to take it personally saying that. Like if I was horrific, like my wife would be the first one to tell me that, yeah, you should stop. But she didn't, so I knew I had to keep going. So he contacted me, and I said, can you please upload something you rock with? And then I'll see what you like, and then I'll make something. So he uploaded a video of him rapping. It's almost like a lo-fi lounge sort of beat. And so I sent him one. He texted me, give me your number. He called me right away. He's like, I have to drop everything and write on that. And so what are you doing next Thursday? JB and I are meeting up. I did not know who JB was back then.
Yeah.
I looked him up. And at this point, I am a huge underground hip hop fan. Atmosphere, Aesop Rock, Murs, and I think Run the Jewels is more than underground now. But they
at the time they were.
Yeah, he's worked with all of them, and I'm going to be in the room with JB, who's worked with everybody that I love. And I listened to JB's music, incredible. I was scared. I was like, man. So
it got real at that time.
It got real,
right?
real quick. And
yeah.
it was like a short period of time they got real. Like I started producing 2020 is when I was in the studio with JB. And so one thing I learned from that is as producers or as any sort of creative, you somehow always judge your own stuff.
Yeah.
So what I did was I started skipping things that I think they might not like because I don't like it. It turns out they like stuff that I didn't like. They liked it more than I did. So I was like, I played literally the first 3 seconds. The way the studio sessions at Thomas Hood places work is like, keep playing beat. He'll invite features like, all right, do you guys like this beat? I like it. He'll like, yep, I like it. Let's write it. An hour, record it, go to the next one. 4 hours of like 3 songs in one night.
Yeah.
So JB was there and I was playing the beats and I was like, I played one because I didn't know what it was because I named mine weirdly, and I like try to shut it down. All of a sudden he's like, no, go back to that one. Like he listened to 2 seconds of it.
Yeah.
And as soon as I played it back, he's like, that's the one. And so from there I produced a lot for people in town and then sort of started liking doing that, but there's something still missing in my artistry that I felt like I needed to kind of discover, which is a unique sound that I sort of bring to the table. And for me, it was kind of, just embracing the culture that I come from. My beats always had some sort of international sound to them, like from the get-go, but I really wanted to embrace my culture because I am away from home. I'm also in Oklahoma. There is an Indian community, but not as much as, let's say, New York City or New Jersey.
London or wherever, yeah.
Exactly. So it's not like you don't see as many of, like my people here. Now I do once I started performing, but before I was like kind of, I'm all by my own.
Yeah.
So Indian hip hop at that time got really huge. And I always liked doing poetry, but I never thought that I wanted to rap because I knew it was poetry, but I couldn't connect that there's that connection.
Sure.
The poetry, it's like rhythm and poetry is rap, So I had a friend I met through Thomas Wu Sessions who became the part of what our group is, Finite Galaxy. And he is the first one who encouraged me. He's like, because I always produce for people. And one day I mentioned, he's like, man, sometimes I feel like I want to do some, rapping. And he's like, I would like to hear it. And everybody else before that was like, that sounds pretty cool. And it's like,
yeah.
You
go do that.
Moving on. Yeah. But he was like, I want to hear it. So I did one. That became our first song called Finite Galaxy. We released under Sandeep and I Drevany. And then the rest was history. We just kept going. And then weirdly, again, like my life has been like in bursts of months. Like when I first started, I got all these songs, like 50 songs in 4 months or something like that with people. Then a little lag, and then Finite Galaxy did the same thing. We dropped an album last year, and I rap in Hindi, and I produce our beats along with Matt, who's the partner in crime, and then he raps in English, and we just like started working on different sort of international sort of sound.
Yeah.
And that was another burst. We contacted the Asian Night Market Festival organizers, like, hey, we are this hip hop group. I wanted to see if we can perform. Like I rap in Hindi. They invited us. They had us perform at their Market Festival. Before that, we did some open mics. So this was like the biggest crowd, and I was really scared because I knew there's going to be some people that understood Hindi there. Before, I can screw up and nobody cares.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
So we started there, and then just like shows after show, we performed at the Indian. What is that? The Food and Arts Festival. That was a big show, and so just kept going. Burst of like 6 months, we had like 12, 15 shows back to back almost. But now coming back to like the big thing that I'm doing now with the March release is last year, 2021, I started this album that I wanted to do with local artists. Like I wanted to basically invite everybody that I love to work with on one album. It's almost like a producer album, like Ninth Wonder does, everybody else does, which like Sandeep is the album lead and then everybody features on that. So it's like there's a sound to it, you know, there's a whole theme to it. So the theme was, me and my wife discussed it, was I wanted to give back to the place I come from, India. And her and I do a lot for charity, but I wanted to make my first like proper album part of a giving back to my people. So I decided, okay, what we're gonna do is invite everybody who I love to work with on this album, give them a theme, because I wanted to have some commonality in the album. So the theme was change. Yeah. Whatever that word means for you is what you write about. So people wrote about change and different perspectives of it. And so I started that a while back, and then other things came in the way. Finite Galaxy came in the way, so kind of went on the back burner a little bit. But then finally I kind of had to tell myself, it's like, hey, you're doing this for a cause. Let's finish it up. And so I had 16 artists that lend their voices and talent to me on the album. From the names of JB is on there, Thomas Hu, KO, there's Hustle, Zunafish, all the artists that I love to work with are part of it. And so the album, so then the question was, okay, we have this album, it's called We'll Rap for Change. It could be different meanings. We want money to charity, or we want to change ourselves. I want to do some sort of release party, because you let it be like, okay, you go ahead and go buy the album, like you still will get people not wanting to, like it's still very hard with music to sort of have an income in that way. So I wanted to make sure that we give them an experience. So it was like, okay, what can we do? And so I decided to do like this release party and listening party, because also trying to work around schedules of 16 people is hard to do a live show. Right. So I decided, okay, let's have all the poets who I work closely with perform, but everybody else would be played as a listening party. Yeah. So I booked the conservatory at Ed Lycan Conservatory, Will Rogers. It was a pretty decent price. So I was like, man, I'm not going to get better than this, like a better venue than that. It was a beautiful place. And so started thinking about, okay, so we will have Indian style brunch. It's going to be like samosas and chai, and we're going to have mango and guava juice mimosas. And so we started contacting people. And I want to give huge shout out to all the sponsors on it. So Stone Cloud is sponsoring us. We're giving out coupons, free pint pour. So we're basically creating a goodie bag of the first 50 people that RSVP. And we are in, then Big Friendly Brewery is one of the other sponsors. The big sponsors we have, fiscal sponsor is Freestyle Creative. So they Vahid and his team were awesome enough to sponsor us. And then Image Line Studios, Qazi Islam. He's a person I work with a lot, so he's the one who also sponsored it. So it was hard to organize it, but it sort of came together, because usually with events it's all about trying to find sponsors and trying to make sure everything is all organized. So I was very lucky to have people that are willing to help out. So this event is March 19th. We'll have a couple of, like, we as Finite Galaxy are performing a few songs. We have the poets on the album performing their part of the album live, and then it's just going to be just a mixer, just people hanging out. We have some visual artists as well, so they're going to be displaying. Lindsay Martin and Tyler Ray are the two. Tyler is also the one who did the album cover. Okay. So they're displaying their artwork and
Yeah.
it's gonna be
It's gonna be awesome. I have so many questions.
Yeah.
I mean, what's it like growing up in India?
Man,
And family too. You have a big family.
yeah, I have a big family back in
Okay.
India. My parents are here, but it's kind of weird because it feels like a dream. Like now that I think of it, because when I was born there and I left India when I was 16, I have like spurts of memories of back home because it was such a culture shock to come to a different country that memory takes over
Yeah.
what you were back then. But man, growing up in India was awesome. I still the things I remember is, I mean, it's incredible memories from back home. All my friends, I mean, I still keep in touch with almost like everybody that I knew back from India, and that's what technology does
Yeah.
best.
That's the best part about it.
It's like keeping up with everybody, but it was definitely different. And I was from a smaller town, so it's just this is what it feels like back home,
Yeah.
with a lot more people,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So
A lot more
a
people.
lot more people,
Yeah.
a lot more people per square inch.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, to me, like my view of India is watching Top Gear videos, right? Which is
Love
not
it.
good. I
love it, though.
I mean, yeah. Like, I mean, I love cars. I grew up loving Top Gear and Jeremy Clarkson's humor and all that kind of thing. So like I've seen, when they go to India and they do is it Hadwala? How do you say that?
Which one?
What's the food service that goes around like in tins? What are they called?
Oh,
Is it Hadwala?
no. I know what you're talking about.
Okay, so they they tried to do
they
that.
did the
first.
whole. They did.
Yeah.
Didn't MIT do like a whole thing
Something
on them?
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is an amazing network of people who serve food basically
Yeah.
around the city.
Yeah.
And Top Gear tried to do it and they failed miserably, which made for great comedy.
It did.
But yeah, I mean, was it? What town city did you grow up in India?
So I grew up in a little small town called Bharuch. It's on the western part. Gujarat is the state.
Okay.
That's the western part of India, and so it's basically if you go, if Delhi is over here, just go basically southwest,
Gotcha.
long ways, like towards almost the edge of where India
Yeah.
sort of has that interesting blob that comes out. So
Uh-huh.
that's where I was. Yeah.
And I guess well, do you go on vacations when? What is it like when because being from the UK, like a vacation for us was like fly to Spain. It's 2 hours, and you got actual sunshine for the first time,
yeah.
right? What was it like going on vacation for, being in India? Or where would you go?
Man, so that's the one thing that I remember not doing much of. So we went to like school picnics and tours
Okay,
and stuff
yeah,
like
school
that.
trips, yeah.
So school trips were usually like Mumbai or some sort of like what we call hill station, what basically is like countryside,
Yeah.
like mountains and stuff. And then I used to go to we did travel a lot to other, like in Gujarat, other cities where my relatives were, hung out with them, but mostly because I came here right after high school.
Yeah.
There's only school trips and some trips that I remember with my parents.
Sure.
That we went to mountains region. Never been to southern India, which was always, it's very tropical.
Okay.
I always wanted to go there. I had my upstairs neighbor. They were from South India, so I loved their food. I loved everything, and I knew it was a beautiful place. So we finally, when we went back in 2020, got a chance to go
there.
and. Whew,
Beautiful.
if you go to India, definitely visit South India. Like
Okay.
that is pristine beaches. Like I was incredibly impressed by it. It's like,
Yeah.
which is kind of weird to say. It's like I should be saying that India is like clean, but it is not as clean as
Sure.
I want it to be. But South India in particular was very, very clean, and the beaches are pristine, and the food was absolutely incredible. Like $10 can get you 4 people. Like
That's crazy,
meals.
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's amazing when you leave a country and then you go back and you actually go and do things you think, why didn't I do any of this while I was here? Like for me, it was always like the history of like the UK and Wales or whatever, and like castles. And I didn't care when I was at home. Like you're just like, oh, it's there because they're everywhere.
Yeah.
But when you go back, like I said, you go back to these places and you realize things, and especially being out here and living in, I guess, a Western style world now, right?
Yeah.
And just the things that are normal to us here, that we get used to, and then you go back, and like you said, the food's so much different. You miss the food obviously because it's so good, but the prices and everything, it's amazing, and you feel so like fortunate, right, to
Yeah.
have had that opportunity to be living this way now. Because I'm sure you got friends back there who still have no idea.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
which is tough.
Man, it's also like it puts things into perspective. Like it kind of opens up your mind because you have lived a different sort of way,
Yeah.
and then you come here and you are kind of the biggest thing when I came here was the undecidedness of
Right.
universities.
Mhm.
In India, it's like a track. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, you either become a doctor, and this is what your schedule looks like. This is
Yeah.
what your, you know, like your schooling looks like. Engineer. There's no, I'm going to find myself kind of thing.
Right.
Which kind of bit me in the ass. a
Well,
little
yeah,
bit.
that's kind of why, like, everyone kind of cliche, everyone sees someone who is Indian, right, and says, oh, what are you? Are you a doctor, an engineer,
Yeah.
or something else, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of, because it is structural, like, that's, I mean,
That's exactly
when
yeah.
you sit down at a table when you're finish in high school and you're like, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
You know, like,
And it's like all grade based. It's like, you know, okay,
Yeah.
so if you got like 70% in your school in your 12th grade,
yeah,
there's only certain universities you can go to because it also depends on how high you are.
yeah.
So it's like, man, I'm kind of glad that I
There
came
is
here
no,
after.
there is zero finding yourself, because
Yeah.
finding yourself means you're walking the streets.
It is.
Right? Not like going to university out
No.
there. It's like, oh,
So-
I'll just figure it out.
I'm glad in that way that I was actually, you know, I could be all migrated here because
Yeah.
what my percentage was back in India, I wasn't going to any great
Yeah,
schools.
yeah.
So here, what it gave me was, you know, I still, I mean, I'm not embarrassed to say that I still failed a lot when I first started because
Yeah.
it was just such a different culture, such a different university. And you give somebody who has had like a very structured schooling, like freedom,
A little bit of freedom.
man, you go crazy. I want to be this, no that, this.
I'll just
no,
try
that.
a little bit of
Yeah.
everything. yeah. So you and your parents come out here in, you said, when you were 16 to New Jersey.
Yeah.
Who else comes with you? Was it just you guys?
My brother. So I have an
Okay.
older brother, just one. So we four come here. I had a cousin who was already here. He's still in North Carolina. So we had some people that we
Yeah.
knew here, but mostly it was just my immediate family,
Yeah.
my parents and my brother.
And did mum and dad just think, we're going to the States? Like,
Yeah,
how does that, what do you remember about that?
I think what I remember mostly is I think and that's what I love about Indian parents, and also kind of comes to the negative stuff is also it's always they're thinking about their kids, like it's always that, you know. And you know, I say a little bit negative because then it's almost like a lot of Indian parents sort of forget to live for themselves a little bit. So it's like, and then when their kids get older and they make their choices, some of them, like I married an American, and that was no.
Big
no.
cultural no.
Big no. And so that sort of, it kind of, it's the difference between, I guess, the kind of the like a culture that's more community driven
Okay.
versus like, you know, like a lot more kind of laid back like US is, you know.
Yeah.
So I remember that they did this because they wanted to provide us with better opportunities, and which is, you know, I
That's
always thank them
Yeah.
for that. Like there's nothing I can do that can repay that, because I've had great opportunities here. I met the love of my life here, so it was just like, and that kind of bit them in the ass a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah,
They're like,
yeah.
we got you here, and you're just going crazy. So I remember that. I remember like her studying for exams because back then she's a nurse.
Okay.
So back then there was a shortage in U.S. for nurses. So a lot of U.S. was opening up, like, you know, offers for other countries if you pass certain exams. I remember her studying probably more than me, and I was in 12th grade.
Yeah.
Like I was like she's very disciplined in that, so I've learned a lot from her in terms of like just the dedication to do things. And I wasn't dedicated to even like I passed. I had decent grades in school, but I wasn't like, if I was her, I would have taught the class kind of thing. So I remember her studying a lot, passing exams after exams, and I also remember her being alone here. That was the hardest part, because back then you had to come here first by yourself, and then after 5-6 months you can bring the family back. So her not being from an English-speaking school, she had to learn everything from scratch. And I was like, man, I don't think I can do that. Like,
I mean, learning a new language when you're kind of young is not easy either, is it? But learning it like after you are,
absolutely.
Your mum's what, in her 40s when she was doing this, maybe 50s, and like, that's. That's amazing. So you know what? I'm going to provide for my family. I'm going to go on my own. You know, and like that's. And when you speak about it out loud like that, we realize how special and how amazing your mother is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
And that's what somebody asked me, because I'm not a horrifically religious person, but somebody once asked me, what is God to you? And I was like, my parents. Is because they provide, like, whatever you can, attest to what God does has everything that my parents have done for me. So it's just like, but also I've had, a lot of arguments with her because I am one of those person who will get what I want. Like, if I want to do something, I will do it, even if it. So, and there's a lot of heartache on her side because I do that because I married outside the culture. I am not a doctor. I could have been a doctor. I stopped my PhD though. But it's just like, but then she still, like, she understands it, but like the Indianness in her fights it. It's like, why'd you do it?
Because that's how she grew up, and that's how her parents told her what to do.
Exactly. So I understand her side of it. But
that's painful for her, but you're breaking the mold.
Yes.
Yeah. So high school, then New Jersey. You get over here. You're going through high school, and is there like a moment where you kind of think, I need to get my act together, and like, how do I go to school? And is mum and dad pressuring you to say, you need to get a job, and these are the 3 options for us. They've always been 3 options. Yeah. You should follow that too.
Yeah.
What's that like?
Yeah. So when I started my undergrad in Jersey, so I finished my high school in India, and then I came here. First of all, I did not. You had to give SATs. I was just like, I have no idea what this is. So that had me almost like waste a year just because my cousin. I don't know if he's watching this. You should have told me to give me SATs. But no, so I come here. Things are interesting. It's a lot of culture change.
Oh yeah.
Good thing for Jersey was that I was still around my people a little bit, so there was still a little bit of comfort in that.
Okay.
Because I had you go to the university I went to had a huge Indian population, so there was still that comfort. Like you're still comfortable. Yeah. Like so you're kind of you're easing into interacting with other cultures, kind of thing. So I give my SATs. Not really good at SATs either. I start my university. And that was the thing, doctor, engineer, or some sort of hybrid, I guess. And so I tried that. I mean, I gave that a go and failed almost every class the first few semesters, like really bad. Like F's and D's and C's on chemistries and organic
not even
chemistry.
Close, right?
Not even close.
Yeah.
So
you're doing more harm than good at this point.
It was a lot of harm.
Yeah.
So I'm going through these classes, not really, because the problem was the undecidedness of it. I knew they wanted me to do medicine or pharmacy. Pharmacist is the third one.
Yeah.
Engineer, doctor, pharmacist. Did not want to be any of those things, but I still gave it a try, and I kept telling people I am pre-med, which basically means just taking bio and math. So I was like failing most of it. Then I get a long distance relationship with somebody who's an Indian girl in Canada.
Okay. How does that come about?
So she was part of. She was in my school my junior, but I never met her when I was back in India. But she moved when she was in 10th grade.
Okay.
And through a friend, when I went back to India, I was introduced to her. So, so started talking to her. So the reason I mentioned that is that made me want to go to Buffalo University, so I can do biomedical engineering in quotes. So basically, so I can like cross the border and go see her, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that didn't work out either. Failed most of the classes there. So came back. That that relationship kind of ended too. So came back, still lost. My brother, who was doing computer engineering. What an Indian, just straight up Indian thing to do. Computer science.
Yeah.
So he mentioned that he had a friend who was doing environmental science, and I was like, that's a pretty cool, because he was doing a pretty cool research on desalinating ocean water.
Okay.
For use. And so I was like, that's pretty cool. I would like
changing lives doing that, right?
Yeah. I was like, I want to try something like that. Turns out the university, which was Rutgers and New Jersey Institute for Technology, they were like together in this course. The curriculum was just like absolute garbage. Like there's things that were not offered for 6 years, they're still on the curriculum. But I started looking down and I was like, I wonder what this geophysics is. So I go to Rutgers, he's from Leeds, a British guy, Lee Slater, still one of the most influential people in my life is him.
Terrible accent too, right?
Oh, it's actually a good accent.
It's so different.
I think it was Lancaster.
Okay.
Yeah, Lancaster. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that gets any better or not.
Definitely not. Yeah.
But his was very like almost posh. I was like, okay, it's because he was I think he was not from Lancaster, but he went to University of Lancaster,
Gotcha.
I think, for his hydrogeology PhD. So I go to class with him. The accent's already helping. Like it's like, you're smart. That's what it comes out. And he was very, very, very intelligent person. And he sort of took me under his wing because he saw me sort of. I like that because kind of the idea of looking underneath. So geophysics is like all about looking underneath the subsurface without actually looking. So it's like almost like ultrasounding the ground, all about electromagnetic MRI and stuff like that. So I love that. It's like, oh my God, it's
that
like
was really interesting
unknown.
too.
Yeah. So it's like, so I started that, and so he kind of saw me doing better. So then now the grade started getting A's because I found something.
You found your kind of thing.
So geophysics, and so once I graduated my undergrad, he asked me if I wanted to be his master's student because he had a position open. So I was like, absolutely. Like he had a grant for me. I was doing a project for Environmental Protection Agency looking at contaminant remediation stuff. Love that. But the problem was, in New Jersey, environmental geophysics does not lend to a very lucrative job. It's like 35K a year.
Right? There's no,
35K a year in New Jersey, it's nothing.
Yeah, right, yes.
Here, sure, So I was like, okay. And then my friend who was in Jersey came for his master's at OSU after undergrad. He said, come oil and gas. Like, they got good money. So started applying, to universities and got accepted at OSU for PhD. Came here 1 month later, dropped it. So I did my undergrad, another master's here, got an internship at Devon, and been working there since 2016.
Yeah.
So almost five
and
years.
that's how you end up here.
That's how I ended up in Oklahoma.
That's awesome. What did you think when you first came here? Or when you landed?
Village,
yes.
Village feels.
Yeah.
But I did like the no traffic. Like, people want to complain about traffic. I was like, I'm from India, and then I'm from Jersey.
There are no road laws in India, right?
This
is the worst place in the world to drive.
This is easy. But then you get used to it so fast. Like, when there's actual traffic a little bit, you're annoyed. It's like, and then you remember, it's like, wait a second, I was stuck for like hours on the turnpike back in Jersey.
Yeah. So that brings you here, and then like I said, you're in Stillwater. You figure out what you want to do, and then you get the internship with Devon. What year is that? Like, Devon's doing pretty well at that point.
Yeah, internship was 2016.
Okay.
And then I was the fastest from internship to an offer because I was almost done. So I was.
Well, you had a lot more experience than everybody else.
Yes, and also it was. So I was on my second year of my master's. Okay. So usually people get internship in the first year. Like, first semester they start internship, second semester, third semester, graduate, job. For me, I didn't get the internship the first semester, so I waited. So I extended my graduate school for like 2.5 years.
Gotcha.
So I can do the internship. So as soon as I did the internship, I went and defended my thesis, and then they offered me in. So August I went out from the internship. November I started working full time.
Yeah.
So it was pretty crazy turnarounds.
That's
like,
awesome.
I didn't get in. Like, I should have taken a month off. To do something, but I couldn't do that.
What? So when you get here, first thing you're looking for is great food, and there's just steak and potatoes everywhere, right? Like, well, I mean, for you, like, going to places where you want to eat, like, would you just start making your own food, or where would you
think I used to make a lot of my own food when I was in Stillwater, and there was not many Indian restaurants. I think there was no Indian restaurant. There was one food truck, which wasn't good, but usually it's just making your own food kind of thing. And I kind of got used to eating pastas and this and that, and I always liked that, but I started making, like, it makes you want to make more food that's sort of like back home. So like, when my mom came here, she always made a lot of food, so it lasts for like 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
Like, that's what Indian parents do, is just like 3 weeks worth of food. Here you go, buddy.
Thank you so much. Just eat it up.
Just eat it up. That's it.
That's so
and
good.
frozen samosas and this and that. So And then when I came to Oklahoma, obviously there's a lot more
Yeah.
Indian places around here, so I like going to those.
But
yeah,
where are those best kind of
Man.
where are those best kind of Indian
I'm
food places?
I'm trying to remember if Sheesh was probably the first place that I went to, the Pakistani place. I think that might have been the first one. There was a place, I think there still is, up in Edmond, Himalaya cuisine.
Uh-huh.
There's also, when we used to live near Hefner, there was one close to 122nd and Penn called Naan Cuisine of India. That was really good. And then the quality kind of went down a little
Yeah.
bit, so I stopped going there. But the places I frequent the most is probably Sheesh and Manna's, which is on Northwest Expressway.
Okay.
And
I gotta
MacArthur.
try that one out.
Yeah, really good.
Does it kind of irritate you sometimes where people over here, like, I mean, people who are not from India like myself say, "Oh, let's go get some Indian food," but for you, it's like, "Oh, this place is kind of a Pakistan place. This is like," for you understand the intricacies
Yeah.
and differences, right?
Yeah.
Everyone just blankets it as, "Oh, it's got rice
Yeah.
and curry. This is Indian food."
Yeah. No, I think that doesn't bother me as much. I think what bothers me is naan bread and chai tea. Those are two things there. It's like, I never called it burger sandwich, so why are you
Yeah,
calling it?
right.
So, like, chai tea, I understand a little bit. Like, it's a lot. You can call it chai latte. Like, chai tea, really, like, you're just saying tea.
Yeah.
Like, it really bothers me. It's like, but I'm not going to say anything. It's just
Right.
like, it's just
Cultural
like,
things. Yeah.
mentally, it's just like, what are you saying then?
Right. Tell me about so you meet your wife in Oklahoma.
Mhm.
Tell me about that conversation with mum. And,
Oh man,
like,
do you want me to relive those moments?
I mean, I just I don't think I've ever met anybody. No one's been on the podcast that said that like it wasn't a cultural thing for us to not
Yeah.
to marry outside of our
So-
general community.
So before I married, before I told him about my wife, Shauna, before that I did have a girlfriend that was American. So
Yeah.
that was, I kind of already like dug my way in a little bit.
Yeah. So it wasn't as big of a shock.
Oh, it was incredibly big. Don't worry about that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I was already disappointment enough at that point.
Is that because they were kind of like as far as like and forgive me for saying this, but
For sure.
like cliche like arranged marriage, like all of that kind of all the stuff you see in the movies, not
Yeah.
not nonsense, but all the stuff you see in the movies that's sort of related.
Yes, I think they were kind of okay with me finding somebody by myself.
Yeah.
But the I think one of the reasons, which I kind of found out later, was because our culture is so communal.
Mm-hmm.
What they were going to miss was in-laws coming in, hanging
Bringing
out
that
with
family
them.
in.
So
Makes
basically, making the family bigger than what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
And so Shauna's parents are incredibly cool, but they're not born with that culture of calling.
Totally, yeah.
So like people like Indian wives, they call like if Shauna was Indian, she would call my mom every day, or I literally call my mom every day
Yeah.
to ask her how she's doing, kind of thing.
Okay.
Like it's just
Just as a cultural thing.
since I was 16, since
Yeah.
I've been here, I've always almost always called her. Like maybe if I'm going camping, I was like, hey, I'll be out for a few
Yeah.
days. But if I don't call, either I'm dead or
Something's up.
it's just crazy.
What's the time difference?
So India, if right now it's gonna be what time is it right now? 2:30. It's probably like 2 o'clock at night, like in the morning.
So it's
basically.
12 hours.
Yeah.
Full 12 hours. That's tough to make phone calls. So you got to make a phone call as soon as you get out of bed.
Yes.
So if you're hungover in the morning, you're missing that phone call.
Who's told you I drink?
I mean, that's
I'm
just
just kidding.
Me. That's just me thinking.
Yeah.
I'm lucky because mine is 6 hours. UK 6 hours.
Yes. So it's not as bad. So like every time I wake up in the morning, I call my mom, and it's like 9 o'clock or something. There, it's
Okay.
pretty easy.
Yeah,
And then so usually she calls me in the morning here. So at night, actually at night here in the morning.
Here in the morning.
As soon as she wakes up
That
or
makes
something,
sense.
she's getting breakfast. She'll call me. So
Yeah.
it's not bad.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I talk to my mom a lot. Not that much, not every day.
Yeah.
But like we might we WhatsApp message or whatever. We never really FaceTime her maybe every 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool. That's kind of
It's-
cool
yeah,
to do,
it's-
right? Just
it-
keeps you.
It also brings a lot of troubles though, because you cannot hide a single thing from your mom. It's just
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? Oh, oh, I'm out here in the studio. It's like, why aren't you working? And I was like, I have my day off.
Because Friday with Devon, you're every other day.
Exactly.
Every other Friday.
Yeah.
Off.
So even being 32 years old, there are certain things like I hide from my mom. It's like I don't
because the cultural difference is so basically it's not worth it.
I'm not ready for all the questions.
Yes.
It's much easier to be like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, because that's normal to you here, but back home, that's like you do not,
Exactly.
You need to. You should be at work. Why are you, Yeah. Why are you still in bed? It's 10 o'clock. Yeah.
And like now, me being an artist, it's even harder for her to be like, what are you doing? Like, why do you want to, like, you have a good paying job, just, keep it like,
don't you want to get promoted instead of spending more time on something else? I guess that kind of conversation.
Yeah.
When you started like making music and stuff, what did they think?
I mean,
especially if you're singing in Hindi.
Yeah, they didn't really. I don't think they've actually heard any of my stuff, and I don't really.
It's a good thing.
Like for me, like I'm always talking about. It's kind of interesting because I think I don't. Like my family has back home. Like because my cousin is like a few years younger than me, so he likes that hip hop. So he's like, oh, my brother's rapping in Hindi. Let me see what's going on, kind of thing. And they realize that I do talk. As a person, I've always been very mischievous and very like always up to not in a negative way, but always
always up to something.
Very always joking around, always fooling around. So for a lot of them, it was interesting to see that I'm talking about a lot more deeper, darker subjects that I've never really
it's
mentioned.
Not something you have a conversation with your parents
exactly.
about.
No, because even that stuff is hard to talk about because there's not that. I think a lot of times I kind of a little bit envy that we kind of U.S. sort of pushes sort of mental health a little bit more. India is sort of a little behind on that. So if it's like you're having a bad day or you kind of were dealing with depression, they almost think you're it's like, oh, are you crazy, like that kind of stuff. So it's like I think we're getting better at talking about that with my parents, but it's just like so music was a way for me to. That my wife is the one who listens to, like who's pretty responsive to like things that are going on. But music was really the way for me to be like, I'm going to say whatever I want, whatever I have inside of me. I'm going to put it out. I had a little bit of like hesitation. It's like, I don't want my family to know that I've gone through some dark times. But I was like, at some point, I was like, screw it.
Yeah, the UK is kind of catching up on that stuff too. I guess over the last 3 or 4 years, it's kind of coming in that it's okay to talk about mental health. As like, and it's okay as a man to talk about it with other men, right? That's kind of like a weird, because a lot of back in like my grandparents' era, or even my parents' era, it's just like if you're dealing with something, you kind of just keep it to yourself, right? And you deal with it. Which and people who kind of hear they do laundry or voice it, it's like why? I mean, they just kind of saying why would you say that? Why would you tell people that you're struggling? Because it's just such a cultural thing to like keep it to yourself, and it's nobody else's business other than yourself, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of get that as well.
And it's also interesting in a way that India. I am like my wife tells me that I'm very different from American men in the way I like show emotions and love, because it's like there's that kind of a toxic masculinity that sort of takes over like small towns. For me, like I'm one of those people. It's like a horrible example, but I was like I would not care if I was drinking pink colored cocktails. Like I don't care.
You don't drive a lifted F-250?
No, I want one, but no, I'm just kidding.
I want one too. I'm never gonna drive one though.
But it's almost like India has this sort of very open way of like men to kind of deal with each other. Like like there's funny things about Indian men holding hands and stuff like that. But I feel like what that gives you is a lot of positive things.
Well, the clothing's so different too, right? The long robes and whatever. Like
exactly. So it's just like we're very comfortable, with other men, and which I think people in the U.S. kind of find a little weird. I was like, and which my wife loves because I'm not like the typical. Because like I'm always present and I'm not taking like guys vacations and stuff like that. I would much rather hang out with her girls on like a freaking what's that like a hiking trip or something, because that's just what I like more. It's just so that's also an interesting way like culture differs, how you even interact with other men differs too.
That makes a lot of sense. What did mom and dad think when they came here? Like to Oklahoma for the first time after you kind of like not when you're in school, but like when you were like established, got a job, and
man
on your own 2 feet kind of thing.
same thing. It's just like, wow, why did you move here? There's nothing. Like it's
Why is it so hot? Why can't I see the mountains?
Indian parents is just like there's a lot of disappointment even in small things.
And they don't hide it at all,
No,
right?
they don't.
Yeah.
It's like, ugh, this looks awful. But they didn't mind it as much. They kind of like the more relaxed atmosphere. So they're in Houston now. So they moved from Jersey.
Okay.
Once I got a job here, they decided to be a little bit closer to us.
Yeah.
And my brother moved to Dallas. And so they still like that sort of city feel.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I think I think what they will probably do is move back to India for good,
Yeah.
because like it's hard because I understand, you know, them, because we don't have kids and we decided probably not to have kids. So
I'm in the same boat as you.
that was even worse than me marrying
By the way,
a white lady.
Yeah, my name stops with me. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was really hard, and so it almost like I understand their point incredibly well.
Yeah.
It's just like when you're from India, you're stuck between pleasing other people and, you know, making sure you are happy where you are.
Yeah.
So it's very hard sometimes to do that, and then I had to take the decision of like, okay, I need to do what I want, and
Right.
even if it like really kind
Being
of
selfish is okay.
yes. So that's why like one of the reasons like I want her to move to India because all her family's there. She is so happy like when she's calling me from India because she got all the family there. Everybody's hanging out, drinking chai. So here, I mean, the best I can do is like go on weekends or go on a long trip. But
Yeah.
there's still like because in India there's another thing where people live with their parents.
Right.
Which-
This really fascinates me with
Yeah.
with kind of just like like the grandparents come back into the home, right? I
Yeah.
mean, just it makes a lot of sense. And I have a friend here actually who he's American, he's from here, but like his parents live with him, and they like because he kind of studied that philosophy and was
Yeah.
like, a house is big enough, we'd rather have them under our own
Exactly.
roof. They've got enough room anyway to kind of be on their own, but we're still under the same roof.
Exactly.
And it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so so when I was in India, my dad's parents always came and stayed with us every
Yeah.
year for 3 months, and I'm like I learned a lot from my grandpa and grandma. But you know, so like I learned like they escaped when there was a partition was happening in India and Pakistan. They escaped wearing like burqas because they had to because they were on the Pakistan side of things at that time. So I've learned like incredible life lessons from them. So it is interesting how you learn.
Yeah.
Like I get the idea of a big family. It's just that I think another reason for me kind of being scared of that, having that is because I found my calling so late in life
Yeah.
that I think if I kind of like I always kind of wanted kids, kind of not wanted kids, but it really set in stone that I didn't want it, and my wife didn't either because we love to travel, and also I just literally found what I love to do,
Yeah.
and I'm getting something out of it. I'm enjoying it. Plus, I'm getting this positive reinforcement,
Right.
and the second you have a kid, I think it stops. Like
Yeah,
I
'cause
know,
everything
no matter what
your
people
life's
say,
done.
it stops. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for that also, and I could not say that to my mom. Like
Right.
like that's what I want to do because I don't think
Because culturally,
that's not what they do.
Yeah.
You work, have kids,
Yeah.
and then you die, and then your kids live, kind of thing. So for me, like it is. I mean, and that's why like my music has gotten more and more. Like I also have some positive songs, but it's like that's what has given me like in what is that called like an outlet to express that, and then that has made me sort of also when you say it out loud, that also makes me want to makes me realize that okay, that is the truth, and like I understand what my parents are doing. I love them with all my life. They're my gods, but there are flaws for everybody. Like I have flaws too, but so I hope that at some day like I can explain that like it's like because what they feel is like we're trying to like almost hurt them, but that's not what it is. Like that's the byproduct of it, but that's not the intention of it. So
Right.
I think and like so I'm hoping that Indian community as a whole are kind of the younger generation are trying to open up to their kids a little bit more, because I think it does help quite a bit to
Yeah.
understand what one's going through.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree with you. Was there any kind of? I'm just thinking of like with me and I married an American as well. That's why I'm still here, because she's awesome and the family's great. And thankfully for us, like both our parents, are very similar in you know, kind of the way they grew up, the work that they do. Obviously, for you guys, it was so different.
Yeah.
What was that first meeting with parents like? Did
Man,
you just prep your in-laws and say, look, they're going to say something that's probably going to be really bad to you. Just take it with a grain of salt.
Yes. So our parents did not meet until after we got married. Like, it was crazy.
Oh, wow.
Which was, again, I've just been just a piling, tower of disappointment for the things that I've done. So we just, one day we just went and got married in Vegas.
Yeah.
The problem was,
You're such an American.
I am. So my mom, she wanted to have a big wedding. So once she got over the fact that, okay, and my wife is also a little bit older than me, so that was another, oh my God. It's tallying up at this point. Like, I feel like a mom's like standing outside my door with a knife, is like, I don't know what you've done. But so, we didn't meet, the parents didn't meet until after our wedding. So she was okay with us marrying, and then, she kind of getting back and forth, and then there's a lot of anger and this and that with her and me, and then me and my wife decided, hey, if nobody cares about what we're doing, then we should just go and get married in Vegas. If nobody cares, then nobody's invited, kind of thing. I'm just gonna go to Little Person Elvis. That's where she chose, like a Little Person Elvis to marry.
Your wife
us.
sounds like an awesome human being.
Yes, she is.
And I'm picturing like for some reason I watched the first Hangover the other day because it was back on Netflix, and that they got like the deluxe pack with all the mugs and everything.
Yes.
Like,
She's incredible. Like, she's been supportive to all of this stuff. I mean, she does, because I'm kind of a dreamer in a sense. So she does bring me back to earth, but she like encourages me and lets me do like whatever I want in a way to.
Dude, that's awesome.
To find myself, even this late in life.
Yeah, man, that's so good.
The great thing about like having that experience, growing up in India, going to New Jersey, and then ended up here, like you've so much things to, you've so much world perspective, and that's one thing that I'm so grateful for. In the same way, like growing up in the UK or Wales, and kind of because we're fortunate enough to have those experiences,
Absolutely.
right? And know the difference in our cultures, and even when I go home, and you said the same thing, like you realize how, what you kind of miss from home and how good it is back home, well, and also how bad it is, but like how, it's just that awareness is something that I tell everybody, like, just travel.
Travel does open your mind up.
Travel's a lot cheaper than people think.
Yes.
The flights are not cheap, but once you're there,
it's once you know.
Yeah.
Once you research a little bit,
figure it out and go.
Yeah, just take public transportation. Things can the getting to India is the expensive part, but being in India is pretty cheap.
Yeah. So this show, so you said March 19th.
March 19th, brunch time, 10 o'clock in the morning. I know it's a weird time, but I thought everybody had something going on Friday evenings. So I was like, you know what, let's do a brunch. Because I always like brunch anyway, so brunch show, Ed Lycan Conservatory, Will Rogers Garden.
Where can people find tickets?
So we so you can go either on Instagram under Sandeep_music, or you can go on my Facebook, which is Sandeep Sharma, SHARMA. And you can even type it up in Eventbrite. It's Will Rap for Change release party. The tickets are up there on Eventbrite. I have a flyer on my Instagram. Under my bio, there's a link that takes you to the Eventbrite page. And then people can. I don't want to do, because sometimes people are not sure what they're doing that day, so you can come and buy the tickets. It's not more to get it at the door. It's just that if we are out of the goodie bags, you don't get one. But how many? I think we have like about 50 goodie bags with gift cards and stuff. So prints, so people can come at the door, get it. I'm trying to get as many people. Reason is I want to make sure this album is heard by as many people as possible, because there's some incredible talent in Oklahoma, and people know that already. But in one spot, it's incredible to hear. And also, I want to make sure that I raise enough to, match, so I can send it back home, because it goes a long way back home.
And you're matching it, right?
Matching it, and I think, I don't want to quote it, but I think Devon matches what we match.
Awesome.
So whatever we get will be 3 times by the end of it. Yeah.
That's amazing, dude. That's really cool. And thanks for reaching out. I'm glad we got to do this. And
thank you.
It's great to meet you, and we need to go for dinner sometime.
Absolutely.
I'm
being from the UK, I have no taste buds. Like most people from the UK, and everything we eat is pretty bland. But the one thing I will eat, and everyone says that the UK has the best Indian food, takeout that is, not homemade.
Yeah.
But we'll have to do that sometime soon
Absolutely.
because my wife loves Indian food as well.
Yeah,
So,
so for me, taste buds are burnt because of the spiciness.
Yeah,
I can't do as much spicy as I used to. I think because I got used
because
to it.
you've ruined
And
it.
the older you get, like, the digestive system is like,
Yeah.
please, bro,
Yeah,
come on,
it's
like,
not
let's
worth it.
stop it.
Yeah. Man, this was a pleasure. Thanks so much
Thank
for sharing. For people listening, I'll put the links to the Eventbrite and all your social media channels in the description.
Awesome.
And they'll have plenty of time. We'll get this out before the event, so they can
Awesome.
check that out. But thanks for having me in the studio, dude. This is
Thank you
sick.
so much, man. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So for people listening, I'll put the links in the description, and we'll catch you next episode. Cheers.